All right. Welcome back. I guess we just signed off from the noon show here. We do high noon every day at noon. Those are topics, topics, topics. Okay, that's enough of that. We just signed off. We literally, I don't know, feels like 20 minutes or so. And we are continuing our coverage now of a story that we started talking about at noon. That is the mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas, at a school, the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde. Uvalde. How are we pronouncing that? I mean, we're doing the show here live from Dallas. Uh, okay, so there are a whole bunch of reports just flooding in now from the legacy news channels, the ABCs, the NBCs, the CBSs. Everybody is on board. ABC is reporting as many as 14 dead, mostly children at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Here's what we know. Okay. We know that this whole thing started just before or just after, depending on, the source you're getting it from, noon today, Central Standard Time. We covered it on the High Noon Show. It was the first topic that we talked about. I had a number of alerts set up for these kinds of terrible situations, and we stopped doing the regular show and started to cover this story for about a half hour. And it was, we'll talk about some of the strange things that happened in the very early moments of this, now some 3 hours ago, that led us to just move off the story and go into some other things. Here's what we know. We know that an 18-year-old walked into Robb Elementary School and he began killing children. We know now that 18-year-old is dead. We know that Memorial Hospital in Uvalde, Texas, is confirming that there are 2 deaths, 2 children have died. We also know that a 45-year-old teacher, we don't know. Keep it good. We don't know. Some are saying that the 45-year-old teacher is also dead. Some are saying he is in critical condition. We do know, as was reported 3 hours ago, that there was a barricade situation. The first reports that came out was that the shooter was inside the school and he had barricaded himself in the school, and that there were reports on the social media channels that there was shooting heard coming from inside of the school. It then very quickly resolved itself, or so we thought. There were reports put out that this was an incident that occurred outside the school, that the shooter, was involved in something that occurred just in relative proximity to the school, and by happenstance, he ran into the school. He was in custody, and this was over. Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here, folks. What we are learning now, 3 hours later, is that it was not over, that it did not happen the way it was first put out, that this was an incident that occurred on the street. This very much seems to be now, 3.5 hours later, an intentional act by an individual who walked into the school, barricaded himself in the school, and then started slaughtering children. Again, what we know is that Memorial Hospital in Uvalde, Texas, is confirming that there are 2 dead children. We know that. That is a fact. ABC News, this is a fact, is reporting as many as 14 are dead. We do know that according to the Uvalde Police Department, the shooter is an 18-year-old. He is also dead. Do not know at this time what his connection to the school was. Don't know if he's from the area. Know very little about him. But what we do know is that a story that we started talking about 3.5 hours ago, and I think I even did the knock wood thing. I mean, I even said, okay, all right, we jumped on this story. This seems to have turned out to be something not so terrible. This seems to, I mean, I believe I classified it as the way the reports were coming out 3.5 hours ago. This seems to be in the crime on crime category. The school is just in the area. The person may have ran to the school, but he was quickly apprehended by police. Nothing to see here, nothing to see here. And we all went about our business and we all breathed the big sigh of relief that it wasn't the worst case scenario. And now here we are 3.5 hours later, and it is appearing that it is very much the worst case scenario. Now, one of the interesting things that if you were with us at noon when we started doing the High Noon Show, which again is a show about trending topics and things that are happening in the news on this day. It's quick, it's headlines, it's hot topics, it's current events. And so we jumped on the Uvalde thing because I had some reports, alerts on my phones going off. And I said, okay, we should pay attention to this for a little while. It went away. We all breathed that big sigh of relief and we went on to silly stuff like Steven Tyler going back into rehab and, Pornhub celebrating 15 years of porn excellence. I'm shocked. If I see, I am absolutely shocked by the things that I have been seeing and hearing about in the last 20 minutes coming out of Uvalde, just because, it's like you feel like you dodged a bullet and then the bullet comes back around and gets you. Again, it's ABC right now. ABC is going full in. David Muir just concluded a live stream on the events. CNN has touched on it, but CNN is now talking about Henry Kissinger. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. I have my TV here on CNN, so I haven't seen what the other people are doing right now. I'll tell you something that I recognized very early on in this story that I thought was really strange. And that was when I got all of these alerts that something was going on in Uvalde, Texas. So my first inclination is always to go and jump on the police scanner and see what's happening on the police scanner, because the police scanner will give you the truth of the moment. The police scanner, you will tap into what the police on the scene are saying to each other in private. I mean, it's not private, obviously, because it's a scanner, but in the moment, in the fury of the moment, you're getting the real reactions from the police. And I noted, if you were listening with us at noon, that I had never seen a situation like this where the scanners were silent. Here we have multiple alerts going off globally on all the platforms that I have alerts set up for this. This is news that is popping off everywhere, and the police scanners are curiously quiet, is how I believe I termed it in the moment. I thought that there was something weird about why the police had decided to go off radio and to not talk about. Now, there was an optimistic inclination in the very beginning to think that, okay, so they went off radio. That's because there's nothing to talk about. It's a small, sleepy town outside of San Antonio, close to the Mexican border. They went off radio. This is just, again, this crime on crime. This is just some dirtbag in a car got into a beef with another guy at the intersection by the school. It turned into some gunplay, and now he ran and he's hiding in the school. They caught him. It's over. That's why there's nothing on the radio. But my other dark pessimism creeped in, and I even mentioned this, and now I feel like so creeped out that I even mentioned it. But I mentioned it at the time. I go, I don't feel good about this police scanner being quiet. I don't feel good about the idea that 100% of every other situation, the police scanners are there. It's a tool for them to communicate with one another and to be able to secure a scene. The fact that it was quiet made me think that possibly the police on the scene had immediately assessed the situation and said that this is horrific. This is really bad. We need to keep a lid on this. Now, the reports that were coming out at the same time, and this may justify why they decided to go off the scanner, And that's fine. That's their prerogative, man. Police on the scene, they decide how in the moment they need to handle this situation. So please don't misinterpret this as any kind of a criticism. It's not. It's not. I just thought it was odd that the police scanners were absolutely silent in the moment. Because as those police scanners were silent, we were also seeing reports on Twitter from people in the area and all of that reporting that they were hearing shots. Now, this didn't exactly line up with the idea that, yeah, it was a beef on the street. The guy ran into the school. We caught him. It's over. Adding to that the scanners were silent, and adding to that there were people on social media reporting things like, we're hearing shots coming from inside the school. Hold on.
Nobody's telling me anything. Just confused and worried. I'm trying to find out where my baby's at.
Again, the school there trying to get out information to those parents so they can reunite with their children. As soon as we get that information, we'll pass it on as well. We understand a local civic center is a place where a number of those students are being taken so they can reunite with their parents. A lot of parents rushing to that scene, but authorities telling parents to stay away from that campus. Our investigative reporter, Aaron Katursky, also with us. Some of the numbers that are coming out of there, again, Aaron, just horrible to even just imagine. As many as 14 dead according to sources. What's the latest?
Yeah, and Kenneth, I can attest to parents rushing to pick up their kids. I remember covering the Newtown school shooting in 2012 in Newtown, Connecticut, and they were telling the parents the same thing, stay away. But how do you tell parents to stay away from a place where their kids may be in danger? We understand that the 18-year-old suspected gunman is dead, and there was gunfire inside Robb Elementary School earlier today. Initially, Kenneth, this was reported as an incident that may have happened outside of the school or maybe nearby, but given the horrific death toll that we are hearing about now, authorities are telling us there was some gunfire inside the school. A number of children are among the dead. We're checking to see how many others may be among the dead as well.
And so at this point, in the investigation, we know obviously pretty large there. A preliminary report so far. So we don't know at this point were those students targeted. Was this gunman trying to get in the school? Was there anyone who was able to stop him?
In fact, one of the things that law enforcement's trying to do now is work with the name of the shooter that they have. They have not released it publicly, but they are working with a name, we're told, trying to run down contacts to see if he may have had any connection with that particular elementary school there in Uvalde, Texas. They're also scouring social media.
Okay, so these are all the same things that I've already mentioned. Okay, so let's just for our own edification and some form of understanding, let's see where this is. Okay, so we are looking there that is Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, outside of San Antonio. Let's pull back. Let's see where it is in the grand scope of Texas. All right, so it's Austin. It's San Antonio is where it is. I don't know why San Antonio isn't showing up there on the map. Here's the Mexican border. Austin, San Antonio is where? Right here. There's San Antonio. Sorry. So it's outside San Antonio. Well, it's looking to be about maybe they're saying 55 miles outside of San Antonio. This is where the incident took place. Robb Elementary School in the small town of Uvalde. We are waiting on a police briefing. There has been an announcement that the police are going to give a full briefing. Yeah, well, there you have it. Look, see, we've already got the little thing, Robb Elementary School. It's already a thing. It's already a historical school shooting thing. Let's take a street view of this, see what we're happening here. Okay. So here's the school. This is where it occurred at. This is a heavily, this has been reported by multiple sources. Well, you can see right there from this, welcome, bienvenue, but I guess that's probably common in this part of Texas. It is a very Hispanic school.
San Antonio was reported just
I don't know what that means.
An hour ago. Is a rural community, less than 20,000 people, predominantly Hispanic. We know that immigration issues and other issues that that we would expect to come out in a near border town there in Texas to have. They've been going through those immigration issues, according to the local mayor. But again, we don't know the motive for this incident or the shooting as investigators gather information there on that.
Just so we're clear about who's giving us the news that's important to us. CNN is running the headline, Biden backtracks after vowing to defend Taiwan. So, they're deep into the fucking divide us game. That's what they're doing right now. They're not covering actual news. No, but trust me, Anderson Cooper will be clutching his pearls all night tonight. We'll see that. We'll see. Disgusting. All right. Still, the scanner is quiet down there in Uvalde. We are hoping to hear the press conference soon. We'll find out more. April, God bless Steve Lookner. I love him, but I opened up with the shooter's dead. You don't need to be going to Lookner for the news. I got all the news that Lookner's got. I got everything that he's got. I love Lookner. Don't get me wrong. Lookner's the bomb. He's great. He's the king of this stuff. But don't be... I'm teasing you, April. Yes, the 18-year-old shooter is dead. I just can't believe that... It's not your bad, April. I'm just teasing you. I cannot believe that we began covering this story just after noon, 3 hours ago. And this is what I said. I even said earlier today, I said, look, right now, everything that we're learning right now, take it with a grain of salt, because all of the details that break in the opening moments of these tragic situations, you don't know what to believe. A lot of it is coming from social media platforms. A lot of it is coming from trolls who are disguising their posts to make them seem like they know something that they don't. I even said, look, let's just wait and see how this plays out. And then, there was an almost complete blackout of information after some originally alarming details that came out, that he was barricaded in the school, that there was an active shooting incident. The school district themselves were the first to put out that there was the school district confirmed it. They said there is an active shooting incident on the campus of Robb Elementary School in our district here in Uvalde, Texas. So that was real. Then the police blackout on the scanners was concerning. Why is it blacked out? Again, my dark, pessimistic thought at the time was that the police who showed up there, they were like, this is bad. Let's just go dark. Let's just communicate in different ways, go off channel. And they did that. I had optimistically chosen to believe at that time that it was because there was nothing going on. And the cops were like, small town, small rural community. Cops were like, there's nothing here. We got the guy. Reports were that they got the guy. Reports were that this began outside the school. Reports were that it was just by happenstance that the school was involved because it was in the proximity to where the guy had ran. And then there was nothing for 2 hours, for 2+ hours. And then as soon as we signed off the noon show, the high noon show that we do here every day, Monday through Friday, as soon as we signed off, I went into the other room and I started to look at the threads. I started to go, whatever happened with that? Is there any more details on that? And then I started seeing a local channel 13, ABC 13 down there. I believe this might be San Antonio. ABC 13 saying 2 kids were dead. I'm like, well, that's not what we were told. Then they updated it to ABC News announcing 14 kids were dead. And that's so I decided to turn the car around and we jumped right back on this. And now here we are. Okay. So I choose to believe that the initial 3 hour ago news blackout and misdirection, we'll call it a misdirection of facts, was done sadly because there was a situation where he was barricaded inside the school, and that the reports on social media from people in the area saying that they were hearing multiple gunshots coming from inside the school, They were trying to handle the situation. They were trying to keep it quiet. Well, you can't keep 14 dead kids quiet. So here we are now, 3 hours later, and everybody's trying to play catch up. Again, here's what we know. Uvalde is a small rural community about 50 miles outside of San Antonio. This is the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Elementary school. So we're talking about kids, what, sixth grade? I don't know what their setup is there. If they have they probably got a middle school or a junior high system up there as well. So these are kids at oldest 10, 11 years old. 18-year-old walks in, being described. Now I'm looking at these. Look, I'm not even going to repeat some of the things that they're saying that he was armed with, because BS is BS. But he was certainly armed with enough to do what seems to be incredibly disturbing damage to a bunch of little kids. Pictures now, looking at some pictures here. Let's see. You know what we should do at this point? All right, we've gotten a look at the school. Let's take a look and see what's happening as far as pictures coming in from the scene. Again, we were talking about the breaking news out of Uvalde, Texas, where there's been another school shooting at the Robb Elementary School. Okay. Bear with me, folks. This is all happening in real time here. We are waiting. We're just going to try and fill a little bit of time here with getting caught up on all of the things that we know and all the things that we don't know. We are waiting for a police briefing that is, well, a half hour ago, they said it was going to be a half hour. So I haven't seen anything new on the subject. Let's pull up the... See, look at this. Still trending. This is fascinating. This is the way that it was originally reported. Let me pull this up for you. We'll pull up my Twitter feed. Okay. So do you see this right over here? Here. Look at it on the Twitter. Under Uvalde, right here. A suspect is in custody after a shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, that left at least 2 dead and over a dozen injured. This is according to CNN. A suspect is in custody. The suspect is dead. There is no suspect in custody. All right. Let's see what the absolute latest is. Get some pictures from the scene. We'll show that. We'll try and get you as much information as it does come across here. Memorial Hospital in Uvalde, Texas is reporting that there are 2 dead. So the hospital themselves are saying, again, in these situations, don't be just falling victim to blue checks on Twitter. You know, YouTubers like me are occasionally blue. No, I'm not, but occasionally, those are the people that are blue checks. They don't know anything. Here are the sources that you find unimpeachable in these moments. You find hospitals, whatever official hospitals are in the area, what they are reporting. That's the news that you report. Official organizations in the area, meaning the police, the fire, the mayor's office, the county office, the state of Texas, though, in this case, any sort of state investigative bureau. Those are the things that you look for the actual information. And then, then there's the second tier. Then I start looking for the legacy news. I'm not looking for the people who break it. The people who break it are like the BNO Newses, the Spot Newses, the different sort of new independent social media based journalism outfits that don't have the legacy of an ABC, a CNN, a Fox, an MSNBC, a CBS. You know what I mean? They don't have that kind of legacy, but they do tend to be quicker in these stories than the big ones. I made the comparison earlier today to the major news legacy organizations, your ABC, CNNs of the like. Those are battleships. Those are oil tankers. When a big story happens, they can't move off the Biden sucks, Trump is a criminal bullshit, right? That's what they're invested in. They can't move off that quick enough. But the smaller ones can. The smaller independent ones can. Now, what you have to do is with the smaller ones is you have to go, okay, something is definitely happening because they have the same sources that I have, and I trust my sources, and my sources being the alerts, my sources being the scanner alerts, the Google crime alerts, those kinds of things. So when you first see the story breaking by the independent news people on social media who are more like jet skis, able to maneuver quickly with these stories, you get the actual fact that something is happening. But then everything that follows from them, you have to sort of be like, okay, All right, because now they're out. They've maneuvered into position and they've said this is happening, but now their ability to actually gather facts is no better than you or me or any other citizen journalist who's interested in these kinds of things happening. We have tools available to us now on social media that allow just about anybody to be able to hashtag something and find the official statements from the police, the official statements from the school district, the official statements from the fire departments, the hospitals, those kinds of things. So the second tier is you let the first people break it. And you say, okay, something is happening. But then before you really get wrapped up in it, you want to see the legacy people on board. You want to see the people with deep pockets who are afraid to misreport because then there could be lawsuits and they could lose millions and millions of dollars. That's when you're looking for the NBCs, the ABCs, those kinds of things, which is why this whole thing shifted about 40 minutes ago when it was ABC who jumped in. CNN is now covering. Texas governor says 14 children and a teacher are dead in the elementary school shooting. Hold on. This is CNN now.
Were rushed to an area hospital there in Uvalde. Some others had been transported to a hospital in San Antonio as well. But the details exactly of how all of this unfolded are still not exactly and entirely clear. But we do know that it was around noon time here, Central Time, 1 o'clock Eastern, when the shooting started inside the school there. And all of that, you can see the chaotic scene there in the aftermath of the shooting. We were told by witnesses that they saw a caravan of law enforcement vehicles showing up there at the school, which included Border Patrol agents, Texas state troopers, as well as local officers. Remember, Uvalde is a town that is not terribly far from the U.S.
Okay, now I'm seeing it elsewhere. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. Now, depending on your politics, you believe what you believe, you don't believe what you don't believe. But in these kinds of situations, I like to throw partisan politics out the window and believe that the governor of the state of Texas probably has some information that is solid, right? So now we've got multiple reports. CNN is reporting, as is WLWT reporter Cherie Pelolo, who, just getting word from Texas Governor Greg Abbott, confirms that 14 students and one teacher were shot and killed in an elementary school attack in Uvalde, Texas. The 18-year-old shooter has also been killed. All right, so let me update that. I mean, that's what are you going to do, right? That's about as ugly a confirmation of a nightmare fear possible, right? So the governor of the state of Texas is now saying 14 people are dead. By the way, it's also being reported by multiple sources that there are many more in the hospitals. So right now, as these reports are coming out, we've got, so crass to use terms like body count. It's so crass. 14 dead students right now confirmed by the governor of the state of Texas. And many more in the hospital after this shooting earlier today. Again, this occurred, depending on your source, depending on which alert system you believe, this occurred just before noon Central Standard Time or just after noon Central Standard Time. Okay. Again, Uvalde, Texas. It is being reported. Uvalde. I apologize to my Texas brothers. We do this show. We do this stream. We do the two streams every day, the noon and then the Pillow Talk edition. We do it every day here in Texas. And you would think that I would be better at being able to pronounce some of the curiously odd pronunciations of Texas towns. Uvalde. I'm gonna go with Uvalde. Ed, who is another very good unimpeachable source, is now reporting that there are 15 dead, he is saying. Okay, I haven't seen that go up, but it is feared that that number will rise. Ed, where are you getting that from? Because I just reported Governor Abbott, ABC News is reporting right now, Governor Abbott, 14 students in one. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, my bad. That is my bad. You're right. 15 total dead, 14 students, one teacher. We'll fix that. Oh, gosh. Okay. And there we go. All right. Let me quick again. Absolute silence on the scanners. The Uvalde police scanners have been silent for this incident the entire time. Originally, I thought that was curious. I thought that was a suggestion that this was a much bigger story than had been reported in the early goings. But yeah, and I can tell you, those of you who listen to my streams, you know that I am a scanner junkie. That doesn't happen. That does not happen. It is never. I have never, in years now of monitoring scanners during these incidents, I have never seen the scanners from the local department where it's happening go dark. Ever, ever. I mean, most recently, Buffalo, a good hour before all of the major news outlets on that Saturday afternoon were reporting the incident that happened at the Tops grocery store in Buffalo. A good hour before that, the scanners were going nuts. That's the only place you were getting the real information of what was actually happening. Hour before the legacy news services were even reporting it. In this case, we went to the scanners in the opening minutes and they were silent. Unbelievable. Okay. It looks from the camera, I've got multiple cameras up here from my position. It looks like they are setting up for a press conference. I see in these situations, they always say, we're going to do a press conference. Here's the ugly politics of it. So the local politicians, we'll call them, well, in this case, we'll call it authority. The local authority will announce to the media, because the media is all over them. When are you going to talk? When are you going to talk? When are you going to talk? They will announce to the local media. They'll say, okay, I'll tell you what, we're going to get all our facts straight. We'll talk to you in a half hour. Then the media puts out, we are expecting a press conference in a half hour. Now, what happens in that half hour is that, your statewide politicians get involved. The governor gets involved. The senators who might be around get involved. The local congressman who represents that district, they get involved. So the press conferences get delayed. I imagine that now with the announcement that Greg Abbott, governor of the state of Texas, has confirmed that there are 14 students and one teacher dead, I imagine that he is getting on a helicopter and being choppered down to Uvalde, Texas. This is not a small one. This is the kind of situation where the press conference will be led by the governor of the state as opposed to the mayor of the town, or in many cases, we see the chief of police. So there's probably, numerous congressmen and Ted Cruz and, the senators getting on private planes and whatever, trying to get down here so that they can get themselves in front of the cameras, because at some point this is going to turn into a political thing. Right now, all we're waiting on is information, seeing pictures of parents. Absolutely devastation. We're looking at a picture now. I don't know that I can show it. I wouldn't even know. Well, actually, I suppose I could find it on this computer and we can bring it up. We're looking at pictures from inside Memorial Hospital in Uvalde, Texas. And it's everything that you would expect. Also seeing pictures of what looks to be a parental gathering of, I believe they call them reunification centers, that have been set up down here in Uvalde, Texas. Just the faces on these. I mean, I know I'm a parent. I have a 13-year-old kid, and I know other parents who have children in that age group, and they say things like, you hear them say, by the way, I'm not in this moment being critical of any parent, but you see these parents, they say things like, well, my kid ain't getting a cell phone until he's 18 years old. My kid ain't getting a cell phone until he's 16 years old. Yeah, well, my 12-year-old had a cell phone, and one of the reasons why I was so happy that he did was for these kinds of situations. I want to be able to contact him. I don't, if we're separated, if I'm standing around in some parking lot of a Walmart waiting on some reunification process to take place, I want to be able to text with my kid. I want to be able to know if my kid is returning my text. I want to be able to know that my kid is safe and that he's at some other place being secured by authorities. I just telling you, kids should have phones in these moments. I mean, if you're a parent, I'm starting to get emotional because it's such an unbelievable thing to even have to consider as a parent. Boy, if you're an older folk, if you raised kids in the 70s or in the 80s, you didn't have to worry about this every time your kid went after school. Brandon in the chat room, let me jump into the chat room now and see what some people are saying. Brandon in the chat room says, so apparently there's a photo going around town of the photo and post of the shooter. I can forward it over to you, but it's blurry. No, that's okay, Brandon. I appreciate that. I appreciate anybody in the chat room who wants to chime in with any kind of news or anything. But if it's going around, I'll find it. I'm all over this. I do appreciate it. Let's see here. I'm gonna take a moment. People are already making it political. Let's not make this political, huh? Let's just now is not the time. I mean, now is literally not the time. We don't even know what happened. Now is literally not the time. Maybe 5 hours from now is. I'm not saying never is the time to discuss the very divisive political aspects of these kinds of things. But specifically right now, while parents are waiting to find out if their kids are dead or alive, now is not the time. So take your thoughts and prayers and you can stick them. Take your, gun talk on either side of the argument and just stick them. Okay. Right now, all we know is that there are a bunch of dead kids. Let's try and figure out what's happening there. Now it's not the time. Okay. You know what? Let's see. All right, let's see here. I'll tell you what. We're just going to pull up some of these things. I don't think I'm supposed to do it, but I don't give a shit. I really don't give a shit if I'm supposed to do this or not. This is breaking news. I'm not trying to make money here. This is all right. Here we go. Okay, so this is something that was just posted. We've got Governor Greg Abbott making a statement. Let's watch this. Governor of the state of Texas, Greg Abbott. No. Yes, this will be it. Okay, here we go. Let's see what Governor Abbott has to say about this situation.
Shooter was Salvador Romas, an 18-year-old male who resided in Uvalde. It's believed that he abandoned his vehicle and entered into the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde with a handgun, and he may have also had a rifle, but that is not yet confirmed according to my most recent report. He shot and killed horrifically, incomprehensibly, 14 students and killed a teacher. Mr. Romas, the shooter, he himself is deceased and is believed that responding officers killed him. Shooter was Salvador Romas.
Okay. All right, well, that's all we have so far from Governor Abbott. Okay, so there we go. Another piece of the pie that can maybe calm some people down. I mean, not calm them down. I mean, how are you going to be calmed down from a situation like this? When we first started with this stream, I was reading and purposely avoiding a lot of the more just another white man killing a bunch of Mexican, Okay, so Greg Abbott has said that from, that name, what do I know? Salvador Romas doesn't sound like Bubba Wilson, right? Doesn't sound like Jim Bob McBride. It sounds like a Hispanic guy in a Hispanic neighborhood walking into a Hispanic school and killing a bunch of Hispanic people. So, okay. So there you go. We've got that. Abbott just put out there, and by the way, you have to, I understand that Greg Abbott is a very polarizing individual. But my God, if in this moment, if we can't lean on the institution of the governorship of the state of Texas to at least kind of give us the facts, he also reported that some cops took down Salvador Romas, 18 years old, Salvador Romas. Again, he didn't. he didn't sit on that one as hard. He just floated that like he's heard, like maybe we don't know. So according to Greg Abbott, governor of the state of Texas, in a statement, 18-year-old Salvador Ramos is the shooter, and maybe almost was taken down by law enforcement on the scene. We will see. Okay, let me jump back in and see what else we have. Still waiting on word from the press conference. I don't know how long we will do this stream. I will certainly do the stream until the press conference, unless, of course, the press conference is like 10 hours from now. Who knows? All right, so let's see. Anything you want to talk about there in the chat room as we wait for more details to become available? Calling the shooter, CA Vision Banta calling the shooter Mr. Yeah, I mean, hey, I had to stop myself in describing it just a couple of seconds ago. I almost said the gentleman walked into the school. I'm not going to fucking call this guy a gentleman. Well, what's the matter with me? Well, the gentleman. Stop it. Another thing for any of you who are just tuning in, who are not familiar with the streams that I do a stream every Monday through Friday. It's a form of talk radio without the divisiveness, without the politics. We do topics, we do headlines. It's fun, it's fast. Like I said, we were covering this story at noon, and then we had to jump off because the information that was out at noon was that it was all under control, that the guy was in custody. It wasn't a school shooting. It was crime that occurred on the state. And then, we spent the next 2 hours talking about Steven Tyler Beck in rehab and the 15th anniversary of Pornhub. So that's the kind of stuff that we typically do. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the way that I do these shows, please do not misinterpret my nervous laughter for any sort of thoughtless carelessness. It's a nervous reaction when I'll like, please. It's probably why I could never be a real news person on TV. Probably why I'm just a talk show host. So I do apologize if those kinds of things do upset you. Cheryl says there are so many shootings in the USA. It is so sad that more isn't being done. What do you do? What do you do? That's no lies told, Cheryl. No lies told. There's absolutely. But now we get into the divisiveness of this country. What to do? Do nothing. Do something. Well, you do something, and that's you're violating the rights of Americans. And but those laws were written. So let's not get into that. But no lies told there, Cheryl. You're absolutely right. Amy says cell phones are not just entertainment devices. They are tools for emergency. That's the whole reason why I'm against performers making you put your phones in an inaccessible pouch for their shows. That's very interesting, Amy. I hadn't thought about that. Amy's responding to me talking about how I'm glad that my 12-year-old, 13-year-old, boy, he's 13 now, my 13-year-old son has a cell phone, because I look at the faces of these parents who are waiting at these reunification centers, and I just think, oh my God, could you imagine not being able to get a hold of your kid in a moment like this? But I hadn't really thought of that whole thing now, where performers are like, put your phones in the lockbox before you come into the stadium. You're right. They aren't just entertainment devices. They are tools. They are things that we rely on now to see what really happened. Unfortunately, people can't be trusted. So, there you go. There's that nervous laughter. Brandon says, so apparently, we already talked about that, the photo. Let me see. Give me a moment here, folks. I'll tell you what.
Toward the scene, trying to get to their
Let me look for
children.
something.
But again, the school putting that alert up on its website, telling parents to stay away from the scene and to go to a nearby civic center where they will be able to be reunited with their children. But at this hour, sources telling ABC News that as many as 14 dead, including several children, in that Texas school shooting. It happened earlier this afternoon. Again, a large law enforcement presence on that scene. We understand the FBI, ATF, DHS, the Justice Department, also the federal investigation and federal assistance that will be launched to help the local authorities there in Texas. You see people who are lined up along the fence there, a number of Department of Public Safety and there in Texas. Those officers also on that scene of Robb Elementary School. We understand, according to sources, that the 18-year-old suspect, at first there were reports that he was taken into custody, but we now understand, according to sources, that 18-year-old suspect is dead. We also understand that, according to our investigative reporter, Aaron Katursky, that there was gunfire inside the school. The earlier reports, preliminary.
Okay. So I think this is what Brandon in the chat room was referring to. I am seeing this.
Understand that the shots were.
I am seeing this now circulating on a number of sites. So, let's go ahead. Let's just show it. This is reportedly a picture of the shooter that is going around. Hold on. See if we can share this. Of course, got way too much going on here right now. Okay. Give me 1 second here.
Especially as they hear that horrible number. One is just too many, but to hear 14 is just unimaginable. Just what that community right now is going through.
That's not right.
Trying to sort this out, and we try to get as much information as possible. We are continuing to cover this breaking news there in Uvalde, Texas. We're going to take a quick break. We understand that a news conference will happen momentarily. We'll bring that to you live right here on ABC News Live.
Yeah, they're set up for the news conference. We're just not seeing it. All right, so these are all being deleted now.
I never thought my husband was a diabolical.
Okay, so there was a picture floating around, supposedly of the shooter. That picture is now been deleted. So, I mean, I guess I can show it to you like this, unless maybe it's somewhere else. Here, I'll just show it to you like this, I guess. See if we can make it. That is multiple places are now showing that as being the picture of the shooter. Don't know when it was taken. Don't even know that that's him. And it has been deleted off a number of sites. Oh, now it's popping back up again. So as soon as they delete it, I don't know if that's Twitter who is taking it down for whatever reason that might be. I don't know. Benny Mac. I don't know, Benny. Why don't you ask the parents who right now think that their children might be dead if this is a false flag? I'll tell you what's messed up, floating something like that. You want to talk about that nonsense, you talk about that nonsense tomorrow in your little dork chat room. That's fucked up, dude. A false flag event. It's dead kids, man. Unbelievable. All right, I think the press conference is starting, so maybe we can get into this.
Good afternoon. We're coming back on the air now with continued reporting on this horrific scene unfolding in Uvalde, Texas, about 80 miles outside San Antonio. A short time ago, Governor Greg Abbott confirming the number sadly reported on earlier. 14 children, he confirmed, have been killed in this shooting, along with a teacher at Robb Elementary School in the Uvalde.
All right, looks like we've got David Muir. You know what? I don't care. Again, I don't care because I'm not trying to monetize this. You people who tip the show, you know how to tip the show. I'm gonna show this video.
About this suspect who is now dead, believed to be a member of that community and that school district.
Indeed, David. He's identified by the governor of Texas as 18-year-old Salvador Ramos, a student at Uvalde High School.
That ain't right.
And he is believed to have shot and killed his grandmother before entering Robb Elementary School and opening fire with a firearm.
Let's see. This is ABC News.
Clear, according to police.
Latest report on the situation.
Shot and killed 14 elementary elementary school students, along with one teacher.
Aaron, what more do we know about this suspect who is now dead?
Salvador Ramos himself was killed there at the scene.
And Aaron, again, Salvador Ramos believed to be a student in that district.
Bear with us
A
here.
student in the very community where he
Okay, so now this is
student at Uvalde High School, and he is believed to have shot and killed his grandmother before entering Robb Elementary
that's new.
School and opening
That's new.
fire with a firearm that has not yet been made clear, according to police. They're still trying to track down the weapon. Shot and killed 14 elementary school students, along with one teacher. And law enforcement sources tell us, David, that the suspect, 18-year-old Salvador Ramos himself, was killed there at the scene.
And Aaron, again, Salvador Ramos believed to be a student in that district.
A student in the very community where he opened fire, it's believed, according to police, a student at Uvalde High School. Whether he was still going to classes or whether he had stopped going hasn't been made clear. But according to the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, Salvador Ramos is or was a student at Uvalde High School, the very community where Robb Elementary School is located, that came under fire by this gunman.
So it is
after
looking
he had
like
shot
that
and
is
killed his grandmother.
the
Authorities
picture
are now trying to go through
that
his
was
background to
circulating
see
online.
what connection he may have had to that elementary school. They're also trying to run down social media and find any potential friends or acquaintances, just to see if there were any accomplices or anyone else who may have had an inkling that this shooting was about to come, David.
All right, that is the major headline coming in right now. The suspect, the image of him just a short time ago made public. Again, an 18-year-old believed to be a member of that community and a student at the high school there. Governor Abbott, again, confirming that number we came on the air with a bit ago, earlier this afternoon, when we reported that we believe that up to 14 children could be dead. And now, sadly, the governor has confirmed those numbers, along with just a few more details of what played out this afternoon. Let's listen to the governor now.
First, I want to tell you that what happened in Uvalde is a horrific tragedy that cannot be tolerated in the state of Texas. And there is swift action being taken by local law enforcement as well as the Texas Department of Public Safety. They obviously now know who the shooter was, and the shooter is no longer alive. Let me give you some details, and then I'll give you a summation about that. The shooter was Salvador Ramos, an 18-year-old male who resided in Uvalde. It's believed that he abandoned his vehicle and entered into the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde with a handgun, and he may have also had a rifle, but that is not yet confirmed according to my most recent report. He shot and killed horrifically, incomprehensibly, 14 students and killed a teacher. Mr. Ramos, the shooter, he himself is deceased and is believed that responding officers killed him. It appears that 2 responding officers were struck by rounds but have no serious injuries. The Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District Police Department is the investigating agency, and we will provide them and the city of Uvalde substantial investigative and patrol assistance. We're in the process of obtaining detailed background information on the subject, his motive, the types of weapons used, the legal authorities to possess them, and conduct a comprehensive crime scene investigation and reconstruction, and identify and interview all witnesses and provide victim services and other support as needed. Victor Escalon is the Texas Department of Public Safety's South Texas Regional Director. He is on the scene, and everything that can be done will be done. In addition to that, it is being reported that the subject shot his grandmother right before he went into the school. And I have no further information about the connection between those 2 shootings. And the subject is reported to be a student, to have been a student at Uvalde High School, and is a U.S. citizen. Bottom line is this, however, and that is, when parents drop their kids off at school, they have every expectation to know that they're going to be able to pick their child up when that school day ends. And there are families who are in mourning right now, and the state of Texas is in mourning with them for the reality that these parents are not going to be able to pick up their children. Our job is multifold. First, to make sure we address exactly what happened at this crime scene, and then second, to make sure we take that information and do everything that is necessary to ensure that crime scenes like this are not going to be repeated in the future, and that we're going to be able to ensure the safety and security of our schools.
You were listening to Texas's governor just a short time ago confirming those awful numbers playing out this afternoon in Uvalde, a small rural town in Texas. Fewer than 20,000 people live there. Those numbers, 14 children killed, a teacher shot and killed as well. You heard the governor there talk about the suspect's grandmother also prior to this shooting, that the governor said, I can't give you more information on how those shootings are linked, though presumably he killed his grandmother and then headed to the school, though we'll wait for authorities to confirm that when they do come before the cameras this afternoon. As you've been watching with us throughout our reporting this afternoon, the size of law enforcement, the presence on the scene continues to grow. Our Maria Villarreal.
All right. So there you have it. All right. So that was that's ABC News. Again, here's what we know. As confirmed by the governor of the state of Texas, Greg Abbott, 15 people are dead, 14 students, 1 teacher. Sergio Ramos, 18-year-old Sergio Ramos of Uvalde, Texas, is the shooter. He is dead. He is still was or is, or who knows, that's still a little bit up in the air, student at Uvalde High School. He also murdered his grandmother shortly before entering the school and murdering all of those children and that teacher. Greg Abbott reported that he walked in with a handgun. Greg Abbott then said that we do not know any other weapons that he had, possibly a larger gun. I'm thinking probably that's a lot of people. We will see. And we are awaiting a press conference. We are awaiting, honestly, we have, I don't know what else. You never know. You never know the new details that are afloat. Every time they seem to give us another update, there is something new. Like we just learned about the grandma. We just learned about the type of weapons that he used. So who knows? I shouldn't be so pessimistic when I'm talking about waiting for the press conference. But at this point, I feel like everything that we need to know about this story is already, but aside from the final mortality number, which is probably going to grow. Some of the things that we can eliminate, though, not eliminate, but we could at least put on the back burner for a moment. This is a largely Hispanic community outside of San Antonio, not all that far from the border with Mexico. Early on, you were seeing people say things like, "Oh, this is just the hatred of the Mexican." Well, I think we can put that on the back burner. We don't know. It certainly does not appear at this point to be any racially based attack on the school, as it was a largely Hispanic school. And the shooter, as he's being rolled out there now, Sergio Ramos, seems apparently is a Hispanic dude himself. So, who knows? Here, I also wanted to make mention of this. I do this from time to time. Benny Mack in the chat room, I kind of jumped on him. He said the whole false flag thing, and I jumped on him. And then he says, I'm from New Zealand. We had the Christchurch Mosque massacre here a few years ago. Okay, I'm not entirely sure what that means, Benny. I don't know if you're saying that the Christchurch massacre was a false flag, because it wasn't. The fact that you are located in New Zealand doesn't change that fact for me. And I jumped down your throat a little bit, dude, because you're in New Zealand, and I'm here in Texas, and this is happening in Texas. And this is happening in an elementary school in Texas. And I have a child who is of elementary school. Actually, no, he's middle school now. Middle school aged kid here in Texas. So I do apologize if I was a little bit short and I sort of jumped down. One of the things that we do here, whether it's the High Noon Show or the Pillow Talk Show, the two streams that I do every day here, is we try to just stay away from the silliness. We try to stay away from the divisive rhetoric that everybody seems to be at each other's throats over. And for me, at this stage of the situation, as we see it unfolding in front of us, when I see the faces of the parents, when I think about my own 13-year-old son, I got triggered a little bit by the false flag thing. Too soon. If there is ever an appropriate time for that kind of thing, I mean, look, I did talk radio in Chicago and Dallas for better part of 25 years of my life. I went to journalism school before that. I can't do the false flag thing. I can't. I've seen too many victims. I've seen, but also I'm not interested in engaging in any kind of conversation about, gun rights or whatever that is. Certainly not here. Certainly not now. John, I've been missing you. I was worried about you. John is one of, I got a picture of me and John from 20 years ago on Facebook. Remember the time you came out to Fort Worth when it was me and Shemp? I still got that picture, John. John has been missing from the chat room the last couple of days. The last I knew, he went and saw Dick Hunter. I never heard anything from John about it. And John, I know that you had recently had a little bit of a health scare, so I was so worried. So John's back. Oh, God. You guys, you're like my children. We've got a very small group of people here that hang out every day for 2 streams a day. And I do keep a head count. I do worry about you when you disappear. So I'm glad. I'm glad. Oh, Leslie sent me, Leslie McDaniels, Leslie, whatever she's going by, whatever she's comfortable with. Leslie sent me into a tizzy when she disappeared for a while. I was like, I can't lose Leslie from my life. Leslie she's been around for, again, 20 years. So good, John. I'm glad to have you back. Stacy, you're too kind. Let's see here. This press conference statement said nothing. All right. When is the official press conference coming? That is what we're waiting on.
Families in our prayers. Extraordinary scene playing out in Texas.
Should we just I'll tell you what we'll do. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do this together while we wait for the press conference? I like to scroll through the hashtag on Twitter. We'll scroll through. We'll see what people are saying, and we'll see what kind of comments we have. Are we sharing? Yeah, there we go. Okay. Hold on. I want to make sure we got that. Uvalde. There's the Uvalde. Let's get rid of that. This one here. Okay. Give me a second here. This is. All right. Here we go. All right. ABC News. Image released of alleged gunman. Okay. We saw him. Prayers to Uvalde. That's one of those things. That's one of those things that people. Yeah, that's one of those things that people. I said it earlier, and I feel bad saying it. And that is the response to people who say thoughts and prayers. In these moments, the response to people who say thoughts and prayers is oftentimes, yeah, well, you know what? Take your thoughts and prayers and stick them. And although I can understand the frustration that forces that kind of a response to somebody who is offering up thoughts and prayers in a moment like this, I understand it. It's frustrating because, stop it. Wishes and hopes. You may as well just say wishes and hopes to the people of Uvalde. What does that do? That does nothing. All that does, when you say thoughts and prayers, when you say wishes and hopes, all you're really doing is you're just making yourself feel better. You're making yourself think, well, and I get that. I get there is a frustration of being completely, and I don't mean this by the person who posts that. I mean, all of us together collectively, there is an incompetence that we feel, an incompetence as human beings who have failed one another, who can't seem to send kids off to school without having to worry about this kind of shit. That is a glitch in the system. That is a problem with us, not as individuals, but as collectively as a human race. So when we see somebody, thoughts and prayers, it's like, oh, just stick your thoughts and prayers. And that's the frustration. That's the short-sightedness and the frustration and the anger and the desire to lash out, to somehow vent whatever these feelings are inside of us, these feelings of incompetence, the incompetence of being a failed race of people. And by that, I mean the human race. We are a failed race of people. We can't send 10-year-olds to school during the last week of school without having something like this happen. Now, when people say thoughts and prayers, they don't deserve that anger. They don't. And I feel bad about it because you know what? In the absence of everything, it's a kindness. That's all it is. Somebody saying thoughts and prayers is a kindness. And, I don't know whatever your faith is or whatever it is that you believe in. This person believes in this thing. And to this person, this is a tangible way to express regret, sorrow, empathy, compassion, whatever it is. So I get angry at myself with the thoughts and prayers thing in my initial reaction. So, you know what? Stick your thoughts and prayers. Because again, that's not me, the human being talking. That's the frustrated individual that recognizes that my humanity and all of our collective humanity is really just wallowing in incompetence. It's a frustration. So you know what? Thoughts and prayers, beautiful gesture. May not be my thing, may not be other people's thing, may not be the sort of deal that is actually going to enact any kind of change to fix the collective incompetency of humanity. But it is nice. And I get angry with that. Hold on. We're going live to the master of the house. Hey, man, what's happening? You're streaming. No. Okay. Is it important? Do you need me?
No. I was just going to see if you had $60 back there.
If I had, what do I have?
$60.
No, I got plastic. I can Venmo.
No, I got plastic too.
Oh, do we need to pay like a dude or something?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, no, man, I'm sorry.
No worries. Okay.
All right. Bye. All right. Let's see. He's the master of the house. Again, for those of you who don't understand how this works, I am broadcasting from the studios here. We call it the Comfort Nest Lounge. The studios high atop the 1%er compound in beautiful Highland Park, Texas. And do we have somebody? I'm trying to see if we have some landscapers or something here that need to be paid. Yeah. Okay. There you go. So what was I saying? The thoughts and prayers. Okay, let's continue to scroll through this. Well, hold on. Let's move back. Olaf from Boston. Hi, Kenny Jenkins. Kenny Jenkins checking in. Sally. Oh, man, look at that. All of us kids, our second mom right there, Sally Beller. Is there anything else happening here? Okay, let's continue scrolling. Let's see what the latest is. Let me refresh. I'm glad I got to say that about the whole thoughts and prayers thing, because I always get angry at myself. Let's see. Boston Aggie says, it appears the guns used in Uvalde were obtained illegally. I'm seriously not sure what gun control would accomplish. This constant violence is getting so old and nobody has a solution to it. Is there one? If so, when will we see results? Helpless. Okay, I don't know who Boston Aggie is. And he says, it appears to Boston Aggie. Don't know what that means. What do you mean it appears? Did you just make that out of whole cloth? This is the problem with these kinds of things. Let's see here. A lot easier for people to come up with insane ways of killing. Also takes away people's rights to defend themselves. Let's hope you're never in a situation where the only thing to protect you or your family would be that very gun you hate so much. Oh, stop it. Stop it with the gun talk already. Net for Life says, prayers for the kids and everyone affected in Uvalde, Texas. Yes, I think we can all agree with that. Yeah, look, now it's all about the go. Let's all talk about guns. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sure. Let's get into all of this nonsense. And again, I'm not saying it's never the time, because I hate that, to have the conversation about what can be done to stop these kinds of things. I am for those of you who know me, you know that I am and certainly classify myself as a victim of gun violence. My life was irrevocably changed, never to be the same again after my father was murdered. Changed my whole life and pretty much set me on a path where I might look at the accessibility of guns and individuals who are able to obtain guns a little bit differently than the average person who, again, hasn't had their entire life completely thrown upside down by some law-abiding citizen who legally obtained a handgun and then decided that in the moment he wasn't going to be a law-abiding citizen anymore. That is not a statement on guns. That is not a statement about let's come get everybody's guns. It's not. I'm simply telling you that, someone like me whose life has been affected by a gun purchased in a legal way, I have some questions, maybe more questions and concerns than the average person does. I'm a believer in the Second Amendment. I have been a gun owner. But I also believe that, you know what? It's not, now is not the time. Okay, so to that point, because I've given you a little bit of an idea of where my head is on all of this stuff, I am not one of these people who think it's never the time. I think it is absolutely the time, but we never have the conversation. But I will tell you this. This is what I do know. Right now, in the moment, while we are watching the faces of parents waiting to find out if their children are coming home ever again, right now is not the time to have a political argument about the Second Amendment, okay? Now is not the time. Now is the time for the majority of us, myself excluded, because I do this. Now is the time for us to just sit here with our mouths wide open, our jaws on the floor, our eyes glazed over, and our hearts in absolute anguish. That's what now is the time for. Tomorrow, maybe tomorrow is the time. Maybe tomorrow is the time to have the conversation. Let's circle back that on tomorrow. But right now, you're just gross. You're just a gross, heartless, twisted individual. If you are watching what is unfolding at this elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, and you are thinking about your political positions, if that's where you are right now, gross. You're gross. All right. Woo. Sorry. Just free balling here, folks. Yeah, this one. Miriam, this is a Here you go. Let's look at this one. She's right. This is a horrible day for every parent in the United States. We have way too many of these horrible days. Way too many. Okay. All right. Now people are throwing Greg Abbott. Here's some pictures. Let's see what's happening here. Let's see what we got. Yeah, that's a scene that we see a lot of. Small town cops decked out like Rambo because they've been forced to react to a situation that never in a million years should a small town cop be forced to deal with. But here we go. I'm guessing that is one of the signs for the schools. Okay, so we're starting to see.
friend, and we were just hanging out at his house, and I got a call from my mom asking if I heard the gunshots because we do live in the same area.
I'm seeing a static photo now, another shot. People gathering again around the area that looks to be set up for some kind of a press conference. We are waiting for a press conference from authorities on the scene in Uvalde, Texas, to bring us up to speed on everything that they know. We seem to know a lot at this point, a lot more than we did an hour and a half ago. But, there are some details. There are some details from certain levels of authority that I would like to find out about. Let's listen to this. This is Isaiah Melendez, someone who lives in the neighborhood.
There was just any type of law enforcement just there trying to see what was going on, trying to help out. Everybody just going crazy, parents running up and down, and the helicopter hovering over the school. And we heard the gunshots, and they were saying that the shooter was actually shooting out the window and having to shoot out with the cops broad daylight in front of our eyes. Parents going crazy because children were scared and they're running out of the school.
You could actually see some of the children from the other classrooms running from the school?
Yeah, running out of the school.
And Isaias, what else can you tell us about the community? I know it's a small town. I'm sure most families are familiar with everyone else who lives there, a community.
This dude's name is Isaiah, and David Muir just pronounced it Isaiah. Poser. Isaiah. Oh, maybe it's not. Okay, now I'm looking at the way they put the name up on the ABC, and it's Isaias. So maybe it is Isaias Melendez. I would just call him Isaiah, but then again, I'm not a pro like David Muir.
Here, we want to wait for law enforcement to do that because they have the painful task of notifying the family. So we don't want names on the air, certainly, but can you tell us anything more about what age range we believe that some of these victims are, what grade the classroom was or classrooms that were targeted?
I'm not too sure. You don't know.
And what can you tell us about help for these parents that you described running to and from the scene? Help with them trying to find their loved ones. Were you able to see if any?
Okay, so David Muir right now is speaking with a young man. I would say that he was probably 19, 20 years old. Before I put the mic up to listen, I could hear him describing what he was doing. He was sitting home in his living room across the street from the school. He was watching TV when he heard all of the police sirens, and then he heard a bunch of gunshots. David Muir just asked him, what grade are the victims? How old were the victims? What are you doing asking him that question? He doesn't know. He's across the street. That's a terrible thing to be putting out there. David, what are you, 9, 8, 7? What? Stop it. Okay, we're going to have a press conference. At some point, they're going to release the ages. We don't need that kind of bullshit from some dude who was just across the street, David Muir. Can you tell us, can you give us some bloody details so that I can keep my viewers watching just a little bit longer? Like, how small were they? Were there any little girls with pigtails that were bleeding out on the sidewalk? Describe that to me, please. I'm telling you, the ghoulish nature of a lot of these people let's see what he's doing now. Hold on.
On the scene, and she was telling us earlier about the father who had not heard about his own child.
Oh, yes, tell us a sad story about the father.
Him. And Maria, you've also learned.
I hate these emotional manipulations.
The age range of some of the victims this afternoon.
Oh, here we go. Now get them age ranges out.
Yeah, David. So as we were walking right up to the school, as you can see, it's right behind me. We've spoken with several family members, several parents, each one of them telling us that the child they cannot find at the Civic Center, where evacuations were happening, at the hospitals nearby, and in San Antonio. The children's ages that are still missing are 10 years old, which puts them right around 4th grade. Now, again, school district officials are not releasing a whole lot of information at this time, but this is information we are getting directly from parents. These are parents we saw running to the school to try and find their kids. One father I spoke with, as you just mentioned, not more than about 15 minutes ago, stopped me in the street, and he asked me if I knew where the funeral home was. That funeral home is about 4 blocks away from us down this street. As you can see, there is a heavy, heavy law enforcement presence here right now. We have a Department of...
All right,
DPS here on site.
I fall victim to the emotional manipulation. I just get a little bit ooked out when it's presented in such a crassly commercial type way by, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll tell you how old the babies were. Again, we're talking about the Uvalde school shooting. This all started off around noon Central Standard Time in Uvalde, Texas, a community just outside San Antonio, just outside. I mean, about 50, 60 miles. It is a predominantly Hispanic community nestled right there between San Antonio and the Mexican border. We were signing on with our high noon show, which we do every Monday through Friday at noon here. It is a topic driven show. It is headlines, trending topics, current events, pop culture, all the things that people are talking about in the world. We run through all those things in a list. I give you hot takes. You comment in the chat room. It's all very nice. It's all very light. We try not to be divisive. We try not to be. When serious things happen, we do break in. Now, just as we began the show today at noon, I started to get all of these alerts that were saying that there was a school shooting here in Texas. Here, and we're doing this from Dallas, Texas. The school shooting was occurring down in Uvalde, Texas, and so we jumped on it and we started following it. And the initial stories were that an active shooter, as confirmed by the Uvalde Independent School District, they'd put it out in a tweet. There was an active shooter on the campus of Robb Elementary School. Then there were other reports that the active shooter, had barricaded himself inside the school. So then we switch over to the scanners to listen in to see what the Uvalde Police Department have to say about all of this, listening to the conversations happening at the scene. And it was curiously quiet. There was no chatter on the scanner, which again, I'm a bit of a scanner pirate. I listen to the scanners for all of these things. I have these alerts. I have all these notifications. Whenever something happens, I tend to go to a scanner to see if it's something, big. And all of the indications early on at about 12:10, maybe 12:15, maybe a little later than that today, all the indications were that this was something big that was happening. But the scanner was quiet, which caused me to be, I think I shared on the optimism that it's quiet because obviously there's nothing going on, and this is okay. It's a good sign that it's quiet. But I do know that I also shared that there's a bit of a troubling aspect to the scanner being quiet. And I had theorized that to be optimistic, you also have to acknowledge the darkness, and it might be quiet because what's happening there is so incredibly bad that they recognized they needed to take unprecedented measures and completely shut down the police scanner radios. So a couple of minutes go by, and then all of a sudden we start seeing these reports. Now, I don't remember at the time. I had April on it. April was helping me out, and I remember April said that she was seeing that it was over, that the shooter was in custody, and that we had basically dodged a bullet here. And then I went and I looked it up, and I confirmed what April had told me. I said, okay, yes, this seems to be over. This is done. We went about our business. We did the regular high noon show. We talked about, we talked about all of the things that are trending. We talked about Caitlin Armstrong, who's on the run after murdering Mo Wilson in a love triangle down there in Austin. We talked about Steven Tyler going back into rehab. We talked about Pornhub. We had a 15th anniversary. We talked about all the things that we always talk about on the High Noon Show, things that are trending. And we just kind of put this story on the back burner and thought, there's nothing. There's nothing. We don't need to pay any more attention to it. It seems to be resolved itself. The story that was told at that time when we moved on was that this was an incident that occurred near a school, did not happen at the school. The suspect, ran towards the school. That explains why the school issued the statement about the active shooter. And the last we heard was that the shooter was in custody. All good. Over with. 12:30 p.m. Central Time, Uvalde, Texas. Woo, tragedy averted. Dodged a bullet on that one. Everything's fine. We go on to do our show. sign off at about 2:40, 2:30, something like that, somewhere around that area. We signed off the show. I go in the other room and I pull up hold on, I'm sorry. Senator Chris Murphy is on the floor raising hell.
A problem as existential as this. This isn't inevitable. These kids weren't unlucky. This only happens in this country and nowhere else. Nowhere else do little kids go to school thinking that they might be shot that day. Nowhere else do parents have to talk to their kids, as I have had to do, about why they got locked into a bathroom and told to be quiet for 5 minutes just in case a bad man entered that building. Nowhere else does that happen except here in the United States of America, and it is a choice. It is our choice to let it continue. What are we doing?
It's a very valid.
All right. Chris Murphy, senator from Connecticut. He's been very active in the Sandy Hook situation, that being, a Connecticut situation. All right. So we move on. We do the regular show, and then suddenly I start seeing these jaw-dropping details about what's actually happening. The story came back around. It went from being nothing to see here, shooters in custody. It wasn't even a shooting, really. It was just some sort of incident that occurred near the school. Everything's fine. Move on. He's in custody. Let's all not pay attention to it anymore. To 3 hours later, 14 dead kids. So that's curious. The reports at the time we were hearing were that there was shooting coming from inside the school. I dismissed that. I dismissed that as just a bunch of punks on Twitter and on the hashtags, just trying to get clicks, trying to get a reaction out of people. Turns out that was probably true. Turns out that while we were all turning away from this story and talking about Steven Tyler going back into rehab, turns out that there seems to have been some kind of slaughter of children in the school happening while we all breathed a sigh of relief and thought that, boy, life is good, isn't it? We dodged a bullet here. This is, I even did the knock wood. I remember going, oh, knock wood. Oh, thank God. We've made it through another one here. All right, let's check in here. Let's see what the latest is. It is very here again. If you're just joining us, and I don't know that you are, we will give you this. This is the school here. This is Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Where today's tragedy occurred. This is what. Let's get rid of all this stuff. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, Google Maps has it all. The road's closed off now, just in case you were thinking about driving by and taking a look-see. They've got the roads all closed off. Okay. Again, Uvalde, Texas. Let's get it in there. There we go. There's San Antonio. Okay, so this is going to be San Antonio. This is the largest metropolitan area to Uvalde. Again, it's about 50 miles outside of San Antonio. You've got Austin right up the road. Austin is here. What else? Here's the border with Mexico right here. There's the U.S.-Mexican border. So Uvalde, here's the border. Not so far from Corpus Christi, where Kelly is. Very small town, predominantly Hispanic. The shooter is 18-year-old Sergio Ramos. He is believed to have been a student at Uvalde High School. He killed his grandmother, and then he went to the school and he killed a whole bunch of kids. The number as of right now is 14 students dead, 1 teacher, with many, many others in local hospitals. So we'll see. We'll see where that all goes. Tartan says just disgusting, as the Onion so rightly posts, and too frequently at that. Nothing can be done, says Only Nation, where this regularly happens. Brady Morris points out Matthew McConaughey is from Uvalde. Really? I didn't know that. Matthew McConaughey's hometown. Having a... maybe he'll get his bongo band together and play some kind of a benefit concert. Again, not laughing. I'm just... What can you do? Yeah, let's see what's happening. What is Uvalde? Let's take a little bit of a learn. Let's learn about Uvalde. Uvalde is a city in the county seat of Uvalde County, Texas. The population was 15,700. Not a big city. Uvalde was founded by Reading Wood Black in 1853 as the town of Encina. In 1856, when the county was organized, the town was renamed Uvalde after Spanish Governor Juan de Ugalde. Okay, I guess that's it. I guess Juan de Ugalde. It was chosen as the county seat. It is the southern limit of the Texas Hill Country, or the most northerly part of South Texas. Historically, Uvalde is known for its production of hualio. I don't know. Also spelled honey. It's kind of money. A mild, light-colored Texas honey, dating back to the 1870s. Uvalde, along with San Antonio, Carrizo Springs, Crystal City, and Corpus Christi, was a major stop on the defunct San Antonio-Uvalde Gulf Railroad, which operated from 1909 until it was merged into the Missouri Pacific Railroad in 1956. Okay. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Already, a mere hours afterwards. 2022 school shooting. On May 24th, 2022, today, 14 children and 1 teacher were killed in a mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde. The perpetrator was an 18-year-old male who was killed by local police. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. I mean, we're hoping it is. I would hate to think that this guy took himself out. I would like to think that somebody took him out. I'd like to think that maybe he's a little disappointed that he's dead. Maybe he thought he would survive. Let's see. Media infinite. Notable people. All right, this is always interesting. Notable people from Uvalde. Yeah, you're right. Matthew McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey is from Uvalde, Texas. Wow. A little town. And look at this. My town's got like 3-4 times the town that I was raised in, the suburb that I'm from. It's got like 3-4 times the amount of people. And we don't even have close to the important people that are from the little town of 15,000 Uvalde, Texas. Roy Rogers and Dale Evans are from Uvalde, Texas. Matthew McConaughey is from Uvalde, Texas. Astronaut Pete Conrad, one of the big astronauts. I don't know if he's one of the Mercury 7. He might be. Bobby Boner, former MLB short. Maybe it's Bonner. Let's go with Bonner. There's no reason to be silly. Bobby Bonner, former MLB shortstop. Dale Evans, actress. Pete Conrad, astronaut. King Fisher, gunslinger, buried in Uvalde. They got a vice president of the United States, John Nance, a.k.a. Cactus Jack, Speaker of the House and Vice President of the United States. Never heard of him, but look at that. A small town of 15,000 people. You got Matthew McConaughey. You got Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. You got Pete Conrad. You got a Vice President of the United States. Crazy. All right. There you go. Not an insignificant place. I mean, culturally speaking, for such a tiny little town of Uvalde, which is in the news today for all the wrong reasons. They gave us Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. They gave us Matthew McConaughey. They gave us an astronaut. They gave us a vice president. That's a couple of Major League Baseball players. Brady Moore says there's a picture of him. I'm guessing you're talking about Matthew McConaughey. There's a picture of him outside of the school that a student took when he was walking around. All right, let's see. Still waiting on this press conference. Again, I imagine we're now like an hour and a half after the announced time of the press conference, which was 30 minutes. Again, I think that's probably because we've got governor, we've got some senators, we've got some congressmen. They're all trying to get to the scene. It's a big deal. Got to be there. Heaven forbid Ted Cruz catch himself in Cancun in a big moment like this. Okay, that was a cheap shot, but come on. Still funny. Still funny that he thought it was all right to go to Cancun. Yeah, this is the thing that I don't even know that this is sunk in yet. A lot of people are making these connections, these parallels to Sandy Hook. And I mean, how can you not, right? I mean, this is not a high school. This is not a junior college. This is not a workplace. This is, and a high school, God forbid, high school kids, God love them. I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that it's somehow less horrifying that it's a high school kid. But when you think of kids in the 4th grade, when you think of 10-year-olds, you think of innocent babies, you think it just, it hurt. This is, this could be another Sandy Hook, I mean, that's what we're looking at. Looking at an elementary school where somebody walked in and killed a whole bunch of little babies. And yeah, they're babies. I don't know what the number was at Sandy Hook, but it wasn't 14. It was larger than 14. 20, over 20. So, early stages right now. Early stages of the Uvalde situation. We've got a count of 15 people who have passed. They didn't pass. They were murdered. We got 15 people who were murdered by Sergio Ramos, an 18-year-old son of a bitch who is also dead. Let me see if we've got any kind of... there's not a lot of footage from the scene that I'm seeing. Typically in these kinds of situations, people on the scene will post videos from there. Not seeing a whole lot of that. Just seeing a lot of pictures. Okay. Byron Granger, I hate that his name, he says, I hate that his name will be remembered. Will it? Quick, Byron, name the shooter in the Sandy Hook massacre. I don't remember these fucking people. Name the, I don't think you will. I think that right now, I think it's important to put that name out there, to put that shame on that name. I think, I don't believe in we're not going to say his name because we're self-righteous and we don't want, no. Let the entire world know that this is the son of a bitch who did it. Ain't nobody going to be carving any mountains with his likeness. You know what I mean? He's not going to have any monuments to his greatness. But, I think in the moment, you say his name. You say his name, you put his picture out there. You let people look at the son of a bitch. You let people see what evil looks like. You take that name. You take that name and you shit on it for the entire family. But I don't necessarily remember. I mean, it's funny. I said the Sandy Hook thing. Well, you shouldn't remember Adam Lanza. I mean, I do, but, do you remember, see, I can't, it's hard to do this because you can Google. Yeah, you shouldn't remember Nicholas Cruz. You shouldn't remember. That's it. I remember Nicholas Cruz because I just recently read a big article about him. Nicholas Cruz is the Stoneman Douglas shooter. I already don't remember the name of the Buffalo shooter, and his name was out the day of. So, Sergio Ramos, ain't nobody going to remember his name. And I'm going to just forget about it. And you know what? If you do remember his name, that's a you thing. That's a you thing. You have consciously decided to remember his name. I won't. It'll fall off the pages of my brain as my oh, Brady says no, it's not Matthew McConaughey. It's a photo of the shooter outside of the school. Yeah. Amy says, I never understand the logic of these people who believe in these dumbass false flag events. Why in the hell, if you wanted to convince a population of the need to take away firearms, would you create events that just make more people more unsafe? Well, Amy, there you go, using logic. And perhaps more likely to want firearms to protect themselves. If you really wanted to make people give up their guns, you should be making absolutely certain that these events never happen. That is, the U.S. is so safe, you don't need a gun to protect yourself. False flag people are just nuts. Nuts or broken. I guess maybe that's one and the same. Just two different words to describe somebody who's... When I think of the people who to this day, there are people to this day that think that Sandy Hook never happened. Sandy Hook never happened. I mean, that is one of the most despicable things that you could convince yourself to believe that is possible. That is a complete kick in the face to those parents. You really believe that those parents are actors? You really believe that those kids that existed that no one has seen since, that was all just a lie? You know how stupid you have to be to actually listen to somebody float that bullshit to you and then you go, yeah, that checks out. Or maybe not stupid, but broken, where you are so desperate to believe that you're not wrong. Your ego is so completely out of control. You have to know, inside of you, your ego says, whatever you think is right, no matter what. That's what your ego demands of you inside. So when you think of something that's squirrely and all the facts begin to be presented to you that you're wrong, your ego is so out of control that it refuses to let you go, you know what? I was wrong. I need to rethink that. So you make yourself able to believe these bullshit stories. That's a you thing, man. That's a you. Your ego refuses to admit that something that you always thought was true is wrong. Man, I'm wrong all the time. I am an arrogant son of a bitch. When I believe something, I will tell you that I believe it, and this is why I believe it. And then, and oftentimes this is the case, I turn out to be wrong. And you know what? When I'm wrong, I just kind of go, ha, I'm an idiot. Okay, new information. Glad I have that new information. Glad I'm not walking around here talking like an idiot anymore. These people don't have that control of their ego. These people refuse to admit that they are wrong. That maybe a crazy kid with access to, whatever. I don't want to go into it. But again, false flags. I'm not saying that it's not something that is out of the question in other situations. I mean, historically, we have gone to war over things that could be called false flags. But when you're talking about it on the domestic level, when it affects entire communities, when there's no way to keep that much of a secret. You can't keep that. You're telling me that if Sandy Hook, you're telling me that of the, I don't even know what Bridgeport, where's Sandy Hook? Where was that located? That's a town, okay? There's a whole lot of people that live in that town. You are telling me that everyone in that town is like, yeah, that didn't really happen. It was actually, I know they told us that it happened, but then all of these smart people who listened to Alex Jones came along and they said that it was a false flag, and we were like, cat's out of the bag. You caught us. We were just pulling a fast one. No way. No way. Come on. There's an entire town, thousands and thousands of people who saw the funeral processions, who realized that, hey, that kid that used to live across the street for the last 10 years, I ain't seen him in a while. His parents are still here, but that kid, man, this false flag was effective. Man, did they really do a good job. They've been keeping that kid who was there every day playing in the sprinklers on his lawn for 10 years of his life. They really keeping him hidden. It's moronic. It's stupid. And it's so insulting to the people that are just mortally wounded emotionally, psychically, spiritually, in every way, that you must be wounded when your child is taken from you. And you're going to sit there 1,000 miles away with your fucking laptop open watching Alex Jones going, those people are faking. Fuck you. Excuse my language. You're a garbage person if that's something that you believe. This situation, I am looking at right now, I am looking at the faces of parents. I am telling you, there aren't 50 actors in Uvalde, Texas who are that good at selling a phony concern. These are real people. This is really happening. So I'm with you, Amy. I don't dig the whole false flag argument either, especially when it concerns children. What are we talking about here? In this day and age, it would be incredibly difficult to pull off such a ruse. Everyone has a phone in their camera these days. Everyone is potentially a novice documentarian to historical events. Yeah. Yep. All right, guys. I don't know how much longer we can wait here. It's coming up on 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock on the East Coast. I think we're going to sign off with this one right here. Yeah, Byron. See, this is why I like Byron. I like Byron. I like Will. I like Jeff. I like some of the other more outspoken right-wing conservative friends that we have here in the chat room. I mean, I think that I always like to describe myself as sort of a progressive centrist. You know, I'm like kind of in the middle, but I look forward to the future, and I think that, what's new? What is coming? Okay, and instead of looking at something new that I don't understand and going, no, it's the devil's work. I'm more like, okay, let's see how this plays out. That's just how I am. But I think that if you look, I don't think you could call me a lib. I don't think you could call me, I think I'm pretty much even keeled on all of these stories. You also couldn't call me a right wing. You couldn't call me MAGA. You couldn't call me MAGA. You couldn't call me a lib. I'm just kind of in the middle here. And I appreciate, I have friends who are on the far right. I have friends who are on the far left. I think that they're both crazy for the exact same reasons. But other than that, they're good people. The people who I do not abide are the people who believe the crazy shit. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say about some of our more front and center rightists. My boy Byron, my boy Will, and all of them. Those people aren't crazy. Like they don't believe in this stuff. And thankfully, because that we can work with that. We can all, as someone in the middle who is trying to cull together some kind of an alliance between the people who believe this on the right and the people who believe this in the left, and trying to put the arms and trying to bring everybody into the middle so that we can go out for pizza and beers and have fun with one another, that we can work with. But when people start going, JFK is still alive, we can't work with that. You can't work with that. That is... Or when people start going, you got to get rid of the police. That's what we got to do. We got to just have no police, right? So can't work with that. Can't work with either of those groups. All right. White House flags have been lowered to half staff. Well, that's something. We do all of these symbols, all of these things that we do now to show that we care. But I don't know what we're actually going to do to show that we care. I have no idea. All right, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to sign off on this. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Once again, these streams, they exist by your tips. I'll put this up here just for a moment. Just if you want to help the show continue to stream, we do 2 shows every day. We do a noon show. That's headlines, trending topics, current events, pop culture, that kind of stuff. That comes on every day at noon from 12 till about 2 o'clock. We do about a 2-hour talk show every day where we do current events and I give you my hot takes and we talk about it in the chat room and all that stuff. And then we come back at 9 p.m. Central Time with me and James Parker. It's Pugs and Parker proudly present Pillow Talk. That's the second stream of the day. That goes Monday through Thursday. However, we are not going to be doing a Pillow Talk tonight. However, because of this story, I may be jumping on and off based on, whatever new developments that we have in this story. So I may still end up doing something. So there you go. 2 shows a day. We do one at noon. We do one at 9. The noon show airs Monday through Friday at noon. Non-political, non-divisive, just talk radio the way I wish it would be, where it's just people talking about everything that's happening in the world. Join us if you will. And then we do the Pillow Talk thing, which is a little bit more dumb. It's just me and James Parker arguing about stupid stuff. Not stupid stuff, current events typically, but we get into stuff and it's more conversational. These shows exist through your gratuities. Treat me like your barista, treat me like your bartender. You can tip us at any of those links right there. And also, as in the case of this, I will jump in from time to time when we have a situation that we should all experience together. And we can all just watch it unfold. I'm sorry, I'm watching. I might stay on now because I'm seeing the press conference. I want to air the press conference. All right, doesn't. Okay, and now they're moving away from the press conference. Okay, it looks like they're signing off as well. Again, I think the press conference, which was supposed to have been held an hour and a half ago at this point, I think they're just waiting for Abbott and those people to get down there. All right, we're going to end it. Once again, Uvalde, Texas, Robb Elementary School, 18-year-old Sergio Ramos walked into the elementary school and killed 14 children and 1 teacher. There are more who are critically wounded. There are people in hospitals all over that area there in Texas. Mr. Popular. Okay. This is a story that we had started to cover at noon. We were basically all convinced, I think collectively, that it wasn't going anywhere and that it was all thankfully not going to be a tragic situation. So we moved on. We did our regular show. We signed off. I saw that it was turning into something much more horrifying. And that's where we are now. 14 children killed at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. 1 teacher has also been killed. The 18-year-old shooter, Sergio Ramos, has also been killed. And he also killed his grandmother, according to multiple reports. He killed his grandmother, and then he went to the school. So that's where we are, folks. I appreciate you hanging out with me. And I'm sorry. This kind of stuff, but this is kind of the reason why I say, like, I want to be able to do these breaking news things, because in these moments, I just feel like, if you listen to the shows, if you listen to either of the 2 streams that I do every day, that the whole purpose of this thing is that I just want us all to hang out and just kind of react to the world as it's happening in front of us before any of us have opportunity to get our talking points from whatever groups, and this is how we should think about it. I think it's an interesting experiment for us to all just kind of view the world as it's unfolding, and these breaking news events are a very big part of it. We haven't been able to do many of these, and it's sad when we do, but again, that's the whole point of all of this. So thank you all very much. Sorry, I'm just seeing again, they keep teasing me with the shot of the press conference. And I think, am I going to sign off? And then they're going to go to the press conference. Hold on one last second.
First of all, I'm sorry that you have to join us under such horrific circumstances. Can you tell us what you saw, what you heard, and where you are?
All right, an eyewitness account.
Yeah, well, it was just this morning I was sitting with my friend and we were just hanging out at his house, and I got a call from my mom asking if I heard the gunshots, because we do live in the same area as the school. And I said no. And as we were on the phone, we could just hear more gunshots. And then she walked outside and got in the car to go see what was going on because I wasn't home. And there was cops driving, so many cops, like speeding towards the school. And she told me to go see what was going on at the school.
All right, this is we've already heard from this guy. Their ABC News is now recycling their live. All right, so here we are, folks, and I'm going to sign off now. I appreciate you. Thank you all for joining me for this very sad occasion. Again, Uvalde, Texas, Robb Elementary School, 18-year-old from Uvalde. Sergio Ramos walked into the school, killed 14 kids, killed one teacher, killed his grandma. More are in the hospital. Reading right now the scroll that says that authorities are expecting the number of victims to rise. And that's where we are. Okay. Go hug your kids. Go be decent. All right. Appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow at noon for the high noon broadcast. The high noon stream. Shouldn't call it a broadcast. You're not doing radio anymore. I know. It's a stream. It's not a broadcast. We'll see you tomorrow at high noon, or possibly again. We'll be jumping in. Follow me on Facebook, Pugs Moran on Facebook, Pugs and Company on Facebook. There's a whole bunch of options on Facebook. Pugs Moran, Pugs and Company. You can follow me on Twitter, Pugs Moran on Twitter. Please go to the webpage on YouTube. The page on YouTube, which is Pugs Moran on YouTube. Subscribe, follow, do all of that stuff. And anytime these things happen, we'll jump in with that. Okay. Oh, and tip the show if you can. If you can't, look, that's fine. But we do run these shows based on your gratuities. Love you all. Talk to you maybe later, but most definitely tomorrow for the high noon.